Hi guys and welcome back to IamCasa. I'm here today in Milan with Mr. Petros Protopapas.
Ciao.
Thank you for being here. We're gonna have a quick look at you and Omega's lineup, and I wanna hear your thoughts about both the watches, your role, and a bit of overall Omega in general.
Whatever you say.
Thank you. We're ready for that. So let me know, you're head of brand heritage, which is a nice role, I think. It's super interesting.
It's like being a kid in a candy store.
Okay, that's a great description.
Depending on your background and depending whether you like watches.
But I think you do.
Yes,
I hope so.
don't we all? No,
Yeah.
It's really being a kid in a candy store.
Okay, but how is it from the inside? Like, what is exactly the role about? Not just for me, but it's great. A lot of brands talk about heritage. It's great to have a take from behind.
First of all, a lot of people and a lot of brands talk about heritage, but not all of the brands have real heritage. This is like number one that we need to clarify. I know that if I say this, I sound a bit like speaking from high above. It's not meant like this, but brands and Omega actually, we have a brand heritage department because our history is so rich, and it's not only rich, but it's real, it's true. This is the biggest difference between us and many other brands in the world. They're good brands, but the point is true history, real history differentiates them from us, or us from them if you want. And the brand heritage department, basically what we have to do in theory is prove our history, research it. From time to time we are able to travel. I remember with the team a long time ago, before the pandemic, we used to go, we all love Speedmasters, so we used to go to the United States, to Houston, to NASA, to Washington, to the Smithsonian. They opened up their archives for us, and the management actually allowed this department, our department, to research the Speedmaster story anew, even risking that maybe we find something we don't like. And from time to time we chase watches, we are also responsible for the auctions, but in general it's really research. We have archives, we do the certificate of authenticity together with our customer service. We also do the extract from the archives, so it's like a bit of a simpler service. All this is done because Omega is one of the few lucky brands that has practically all its archives intact. In the 1970s, where everybody and his mother threw away their archives, threw away their machinery and whatever, Omega didn't have to do this. They kept everything. And for us now, for the team and for the brand itself, it's amazing.
And also for the customers to get it, to get
and
the service.
Of course, in the end, for the customer, because it's the customer who actually takes advantage of it in the most positive way.
Sure. But tell me more about you. How did you end up there? I was talking with Malik before, and it's super story.
We shouldn't really make it about me, but it's because I'm a kid in a candy store that I can tell you I'm from maybe your side, or like the other side, as sometimes I like to say it, because I used to be a pilot, but that's another story. But the point is that whenever I had a free day and I was in the United States, I was roaming with friends, flea markets and vintage stores and garage sales and everything. And you can find watches like a real vintage moon watch, you could find for almost nothing in a garage sale. And the people back then, they even told you, it doesn't cost, because I think it needs a battery. I was on the other side, I was a collector. In Greece, because I'm Greek, I got acquainted with the family of the ex-importer of Omega in Greece, and he had kept like boxes full of papers, like in our archives. And I was able, like every Sunday, to go in his basement and to just read. So I learned a lot of things from real Omega papers. That when the internet started, like early Time Zone, the very early version of the very first good forums, people didn't have a lot of access to real Omega papers. So I was able to start writing a little bit, and so one thing led to the other, and so here I am.
Great. It was also a great year about Speedmaster and for Omega. The auctions were terrific. We had two, let's say, records. One is a super record, the CK 2915.
Yeah, correct. With ultra brown dial. Yeah.
Really, what's your take on them?
You mean the dial or?
No, on these two overall, the 2915, the CK 2915, and the Michael Collins one. Which is even way more relevant than
honestly,
the other one.
So both were a surprise.
Okay.
Not a surprise because we all didn't expect that they would fetch a good price. But we were all surprised about how far they went. I can tell you that the museum was interested in the CK 2915, but we were out quite quickly. And then even I was just watching. And then apparently it went to the Far East, to the extreme Far East. There are some good collections there. And the Michael Collins, exploded as well. And there I'm proud on behalf of the brand to actually tell you, we didn't even go there. So we were just watching.
Okay.
Because sometimes you can think, okay, if the museum is bidding, maybe,
it
prices
gets higher for that.
It's not always the case. And as you see in the Michael Collins, we didn't touch the watch, not because we didn't like it. The watch was perfect. It would have been a good addition to our museum, but we do have quite a few of the BA 145-022s, also Richard Nixon's and Spiro T. Agnew's ones. So for us, it didn't make sense to go there.
Yeah, sure.
But honestly, that price shows you the strength of the brand first, and it shows you what real heritage can actually do when the real people get on fire.
Yeah, for a lot of my friends that were interested in the watch, it was considered the most important Speedmasters, not like in private hands.
Yeah.
So
it's
really, and it's the most desired watch from Omega. We were talking about briefly before.
Yeah,
it is, and also in your eyes. I mean, to me, when I think about Omega, the first thing bumping on my mind, it's obviously this. It's the watch also that got me there in the passion and.
Yeah. It's difficult not to get passion for the Speedmaster line, obviously, if you know its history. But I am biased, or we are biased, because I think we both like it quite a lot.
Yeah.
But it comes with its story. But yes, it is probably one of the most desired Omega watches. I'm very careful to say this because I also like other models.
Sure.
So I'm very careful. So that the Speedmaster was born as a kid out of the Seamaster collection. So we cannot speak about the Speedmaster without actually thinking of its father, which is also quite desirable. If you think about like the how far deep the new depth records and all this, I find it also quite desirable. And it's one of the watches in unobtainium that even I cannot get currently. Okay. So this is desirable.
Yeah, so much.
But coming back to the Speedmaster, I say one thing is its NASA story, because it speaks to everybody. It's a touching story. But what makes the Speedmaster really desirable, I think, is that now that we are old enough, and now that the Speedmaster has matured. The Speedmaster, like being mature, it can, I say, survive. It can stand on its own even without space. And although we all like to talk about space, and it's my favorite topic, it's so good to know that because of the work that the whole company has done, so now the Speedmaster is mature and it lives its own life.
Sure.
Not only on the moon, but you find it you always found it with pilots. You always found it with adventurers, you found it in American U-boats, in submarines, for example. So it's a watch for an explorer that was perfectly sturdy and good enough to survive NASA's tests. But if you see the story like this, and you see a totally mature and probably the world's best chronograph, and that makes it the most desirable, probably the most desirable watch.
Yeah, and it's super iconic. I know it's a abused term, but iconic design for a chronograph.
Absolutely. Think of the tachymeter scale. Before the Speedmaster, the tachymeter scale, if it existed on the model, it was printed or painted or somehow on the dial. The Speedmaster was the first chronograph to achieve the perfect readability for its users.
But when I look at the modern Speedmaster, I see a lot of details, as we all know, the dawn and all that, that I think that are coming from your department.
I mean, again, for as much as we like to hear it, I'm not sure we should really put the heritage department in front. I would say what Omega has achieved with its heritage department and with its product department is a perfect working unison.
Okay.
It's not like heritage ruling over everything, but it's more like heritage used in a very, very good way to influence a product and to make it, let's say, count even today.
And I mean, the impact was great on the bracelet.
You see,
I mean,
yeah.
It's the first thing everyone. I remember I did a video for the launch of the new iteration, and literally we all looked at the details because basically the Speedmaster is eternal. It's like a, or somehow like it's like a.
It's true. It's an icon.
Exactly.
It's a icon. Yeah.
And it's a design that is that one. So you just can play with the details, but you play the details in a great way for my personal way of saying it, but I think that we can all agree on that.
And I think also like one sideline to this, but the point is because it never stopped, it never became retro. And this is the difference, because you asked me before about the importance of heritage. Heritage done wrong is when heritage becomes retro. The current Moonwatch lives in its heritage, but it doesn't shout it. It's a heritage that is ongoing, and this is the way, or the right way, I think, to do heritage. To just live with it, go with it, and then also be silent about it and let people discover it without, like slapping it on people's faces. It's vintage.
Yeah, it's more culture.
Yeah,
that is creating more culture
I
than
think
just
so, yeah.
showing it off.
Exactly, I think so.
We have a beautiful lineup. This is a piece you've brought.
Yes.
And what's special about it?
I mean, what is special about it is let's just call it, it's the model that we call the first Moonwatch, or the first Speedmaster Professional.
Okay.
Obviously with the caliber 321 inside. Other than the bracelet, because this one is a leather strap, you shall find many like similar points of similarity. I mean, this is that's what I meant before. The watch was always there.
Yeah.
I mean, take away the bracelet and possibly like slightly vintage colors on the dial, but this is old and not redone vintage, and you would see the watch lives as it lived so many years ago. You can feel perfectly at home getting a Moonwatch today, and you still feel the same feelings that you would have if you have a vintage Moonwatch, honestly. And I'm a collector. And this is why it's so important, when I said before, to do heritage right. Because, as I said, it lived all its life. I mean, this model never stopped. You don't have to go vintage today to live that story, to live the Speedmaster story. And there is not too many brands out there that can say this to you as a client.
I was told about this, the whole new certifications, which is an interesting topic because it's growing on the whole market. Is this a new thing?
In general, you mean like a new thing to focus specifically on heritage?
No, to have an exact certification with that much care too.
I mean, obviously for us, it is a new thing, although it was a desire a long time in planning. Because, like, first you have the extract of the archives, which has one, call it limitation if you want. The limitation is it's a birth certificate.
Yeah.
So why is it limiting? It's limiting because imagine you have this watch, and basically in order to issue an extract of the archives, you don't have to show me the watch.
Yeah,
I mean,
you just have
our
numbers.
department. You don't have to show Omega the watch. Basically, you give Omega your serial number. You have to fill in a few other fields, but obviously, with a serial number, we can go in the archives, but we don't know what you have. Huh? Let's go to the Seamaster family to explain you this thing a bit better. So let's take Ploprov.
Okay.
Ploprovs were watches that were used by professional divers, so they had to do a lot of servicing fast. Because they needed to go back to the oil rig, for example. So the only way to do a quick service, fast service on shore during 2 days was to change movement.
Okay.
So you give me your serial number of your Proprov. So Petros or the heritage team or Omega will find in the archives your movement, but not necessarily your watch, if your movement was swapped during a legit service. So you will receive a perfect paper that will say that your Omega DeVille is born in 1969 and whatever, and you go like, but I have a prop prop. Because the archives don't tell us about movement
The whole story,
exchanges. So this was like long time coming. We tried to perfect the system, and this is why we came up with the idea of certificate of authenticity. This is what in the end the client, the lucky client will get. And inside that white box is plastic wrap. And inside the plastic wrap is a red box. And also
a booklet.
Something a bit bigger than the extract.
Word,
So obviously you hope that there is a watch inside, which is not a plover but a Speedmaster because it's fitting our topic.
Yeah, sure.
So what happens with the certification process is something else. We don't only use a serial number, but we use expertise. So we look at the watches, we look at its spare parts, we look at the sum of its parts, and even if you have an exchange movement, but if the rest of all your parts, like the case is original, the dial is original, the hands are original, like there's no, let's just call it, you are from my ex side, so if there is no Franken stories hanging on the watch, we can issue a paper that talks about its two sides. We will say that during the life of this watch, the movement was exchanged to the presently fitted one. We will explain that the data we find are from that movement, but then we will detail the originality of every single piece of your watch. We will speak about the hands, we will speak about the dial, we will speak about everything, and suddenly a watch that you would never get an extract for suddenly gets a better paper and also gets more value.
Sure. It's certificate by the brand, so it's, and also with the Polaroid.
Exactly.
That's so good.
Which is good. It's important because if somebody buys that watch, he knows that it was certified at that exact moment to this exact specification. So if suddenly what you buy has these pictures and this paper, but you have like a redone dial inside, you know that you have to return it to the seller, for example. And we did it also as a service to the community, because as you know, collectors are a very, very important part of our daily life. At the museum, at Heritage, but at Omega in general. So it's a service to the community to give them also the possibility to be a bit more safe.
And to get in touch with the community.
To get in touch with them, and also to give them a bit of a safety level also for maybe slightly more expensive purchases.
Going back to what we have on a tray, I've always been fascinated by
We'll do it later.
By the precious metals ones. Because to me the Speedmaster is sporty, and being sporty, sporty yes and no, but being kind of sporty, it's still for sure. But when I first saw the Nixon one, it was my first golden Speedmaster ever in my hands. When I saw that, I was like, that's really another game, really another thing. So now we have that one, which is the father, let's say, of the present model, but a model that is really different from all the others, but two really special watches. What's your take on this?
My take on this is, first of all, as models, they're extremely welcome, because you spoke about sport, and I tried to add, because we are in Italy, I tried to add the sporty elegant, or sport elegance, and that's the point, because sporty doesn't mean tool watch.
No, true.
And as a sporty person, you can have a wonderful car that is extremely elegant but fast. And the same thing with a watch. Nothing tells you that your sports watch cannot be in platinum or white gold if you want to be subdued, or even in gold. But what you're holding in your hands, for example, is an 18 karat gold watch that if you run with it, if you play golf with it, I don't know, whatever, if you go swim with it, it will never discolor, for example. If you look at the old, like the Nixon, or the old BA 145-022, you will see that over the time, sweat or other, fluids, they will discolor gold, although it's a very precious metal, and we've tried to achieve exactly this. How do we achieve sporty elegance? First of all, by keeping it. So this watch will remain, with this gold alloy, will remain sporty elegant for all its life. It will never have any spots, haze or whatever. and I mean the green color. I mean,
Yeah, I've liked it a lot
Yeah.
when I saw it first time. It's the color of nowadays. For
it's
sure.
yeah, green is the new whatever.
Yeah, I think that was the next question. I think that these more, let's say, funky but fun iterations of the Speedmasters are the future of the Speedmaster. to
I
me.
completely agree, and this is also why I dare to say before that the Speedmaster has its own life now, because it's matured outside of the space, outside the space story.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the space is the base, but the watch matured. So, as you said, I like that you say funk actually, because I think only in Italy people can look at an 18-karat gold watch with a green dial and say funky to it. And for me, it's the same. It is a funky way to reinterpret a classic watch. Here you have an interesting mix because you have like one of the most precious metals at all. I mean, it's platinum.
Yeah.
So you have funk again. You have this duality in the counters, but you have a return. You have two returns there. So you have one welcome return from the world of heritage,
Yeah.
redone for the 21st, 22nd century, whatever you want, the caliber 321. But you also have slight nod to space history. So with all its, let's say, different metallurgy, the vintage movement, the newly redone, remade 321, you still have an infusion, like a shot of space, because you have on the sub-dials, you still have space material. So this watch, other than the very, very welcome return of the caliber 321 in it, in its newly redone version, you have also, for as much as I stay away from space, you have a welcome infusion of space as well. Because if you look at the sub-dials, the 60 seconds, the 12-hour counter, and the 30-minute counter, you have a different color, and that different color is meteorite. In fact, it's slices of the Gibeon meteorite, and I mean it's maybe this is funk too, because I mean this is probably the coolest way to reinterpret all your history, because you take a bit of space, you take a bit of metallurgy, you take an old movement, a legendary movement reborn into the guise of a fresh Speedmaster. Which I say, I mean, Mr. Agnelli would wear it over his sleeve with pride. And this is the watch that is perfectly at home in Milano. I mean, it's sporty elegance at its best.
I can get killed for that, but it's more to me sporty, tuxedo sporty. You know, get me this kind of vibe.
I completely understand, and I don't think you'll get killed for that. So because you're right. So
thank you. Thank you. It's always risky to say out loud those things to the public.
I think, but I think you know the friends who are watching. So, but all this shows you, like, again, maturity reaches a point where the watch can just be itself, and then you can do experiments as the new 57.
The sandwich dial.
The sandwich dial, which is amazing.
So nice. I don't like the dates, but
you have.
So nice.
I mean, again, you have nods of vintage. You have nods of vintage that are not Speedmaster even. I mean, like the dual counters, for example. You have a very, very brilliantly finished movement, hand wound. And I forgot one thing, which is true for all these, like, other than the vintage one. One of the most important things to do when you treat your heritage right is to also keep it, although it's an oxymoron, you treat your heritage right by keeping it up with the times. As I said, it's been alive in the catalog for quite some time, but it never became retro. Why didn't it become retro? Because, for example, even in the classic 861 caliber style, I say style only, you have a master chronometer movement inside. You have the escapement that is completely different. You have a guise. You have the house that is totally heritage, but the heart is young.
Modern,
Is modern, is young. So this is heritage being treated the right way, never retro. And this is something you see really at Omega, and I think the watches you showcased here, they really speak for it. They really have a flag for that. Because, I mean, a race car driver for today would wear it.
Yeah, for sure. I would wear it as well.
Yeah. You race a car?
Sometimes.
Okay, good.
What are you wearing, by the way?
I'm
super curious.
It's clean enough. Yeah, it's clean enough. Look at it.
Okay, yeah. Because I spotted the bezel.
Yes.
And I said, "What? I know this.
What's
bezel.
going on?
I know
Exactly.
That. Yeah, that's.
So it's the 50th. I mean, it's the Apollo 11 edition, which I love, and I love the bracelet on this one.
I was always skeptical about a counter, but the more I look at it, the more it gets something to me. I mean, it speaks to me a little bit.
To be honest with you, it's one of the watches I fell in love with, although I don't like overloaded dials. This one somehow works perfectly, and the colors, they're like subdued and it's
has
brilliant.
something also about the missions, the mission
Exactly,
explorations. It reminds
yeah,
them
yeah.
a lot. So.
And it has an interesting, I mean, like all the new calibers that we just spoke about, they have an interesting thing that everybody was shouting for decades, and it never came. And now that it's here, almost nobody noticed it. If you pull the crown, finally the Speedmaster stops.
Okay.
Which is something that everybody wanted, and now that Omega gave it to the people, almost nobody noticed.
It's always like that.
Yeah, unfortunately.
We're not grateful for
Yes,
anything.
That's true.
Let's go to the last question. I'm really curious about with the coming back of the 3-to-1.
Yes.
We finally saw a smaller Speedmaster, because I call myself a ballerina.
Yes.
So it's the first time I tried it on, I was like, yeah, it's beautiful. But does it look good on me because I have a small wrist? Will we see a smaller case as well, according to you? On
so you want me to read the magic,
we have one
future
there.
of the glass?
No, it's in your. Is it in your head as well?
It is in my head as well, and as far as I can, what I can tell you is that it's in the head of a lot of people with us.
Okay.
So
Maybe
that's as far as
the
the magic ball. This is as far as the magic ball will
goes.
go. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Petros, for being
More
with
than
us.
welcome. Thank you for having me.
It was a great pleasure.
For featuring heritage, and really important. It's not only Petros, please. It's a team behind it.
But we have you there now.
Yeah, but don't forget, it's a team behind it, and it's also we are there because Omega as a company allows us to do what we do. It's very important.
Yeah, so much. And another question, because we're there. Are there many young people getting into the heritage department more than maybe other ones?
Since a couple of years, yes.
Okay.
Most of the colleagues in our team are qualify as young, not only younger than me, but really young bucks. And one of my friends and colleagues, he started as a young buck, as an apprentice. At the museum before the department was called Heritage.
Okay.
So he was really a young buck, and he's still with us. And he moved on, and he's probably gonna be the next Petros. So
awesome.
So this is the perfect thing.
Great to hear. Thank you so much. Thanks to
You're
Omega
welcome.
for having me. Thanks to you for watching. Let us know which of these watches was your favorite, and if you knew about the heritage department, and if you liked it. See you in the next video.